Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Triple Double Nation. Today we're looking at the top 5 toughest contract decisions this summer in NBA free agency. Let's get right into the video. Number 5, Spencer Dinwiddie, Brooklyn Nets player option. Spencer Dinwiddie entered this season on the fast track to a mega contract, having entrenched himself as a fringe all-star. Select people harped on his iffy 3-point clip, but he averaged 20.6 points and 6.8 assists while downing 48.5% of his twos and improving his touch around the rim during the 2019 and 20 campaign. Declining his $12.3 million player option wasn't even a discussion. Someone was going to throw him near max money in free agency ahead of his 28-age season. That calculus changes a bit following Dinwiddie's torn right ACL. He will still opt out. His $12.3 million tag is well below market value for what he does at full strength. And this year's free agency class wants for any trace of star power in the worst way. But his per year basis is more of an unknown on the heels of such a significant setback, especially because he's now torn the ACL in both his knees. Does he target the most years possible on the open market in the name of a long-term security? Prioritize a 1+1 scenario that lets him re-enter free agency in 2022 after getting a chance to prove himself? How much of a raise will he get now? Which teams will actually have interest in him? Are the Brooklyn Nets going to be among them? They have Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving. Bringing back Dinwiddie is both redundant and will fatten their tax bill. Potentially losing him for nothing stings at the moment. And not just because he'd then be a wasted asset. The Big Three appeared in just 8 games together during the regular season. Having Dinwiddie better equips them to navigate load management for and injuries to their stars. The Nets can always sign Dinwiddie with the intent to move him later, but that risks his next deal going belly up post-injury and turning into a net negative. There's also no guarantee he re-ups with a team that could feasibly flip him elsewhere in the first year of his new pact. So yeah, both parties have some questions to answer. Number 4, Marcus Smart, Boston Celtics, extension eligible. Upheaval within the Boston Celtics does nothing to complicate Marcus Smart's extension eligibility. His contract situation was always going to be thorny, largely for the Celtics. Offering him the maximum raise allowed from next year's salary would put him around $17.2 million in 2022 and 23. That might not be enough. Smart remains all defense material. Nobody on Boston's roster spent more time guarding number 1 options this season, according to B-Ball Index, and he's strong and physical enough to line up against guards and forwards. For as much as he can be a painful adventure on offense, he's also an asset. His 3-point volume has value of its own, and he's canning a rock-solid 35.5% of his triples over the past 3 seasons. Another team might be willing to go higher than $17.2 million for Smart in 2022. He'll be only 28 when he hits the market. A 4-year contract takes him through to the heart of his prime. It behooves the Celtics to get him signed rather than risk losing him for nothing down the line. This presumes Smart is open to an extension. He might not be. You barely need 2 hands to count the number of perimeter defenders as important as him. He can very easily roll the dice into 2022 free agency. Even if he's willing to sign at his extension number or for less, Boston must actually pay him. That's not a given. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and Kemba Walker are currently on the books for a combined $95.6 million in 2022 and 23. Tack on the $17.2 million for Smart, and the Celtics will have $112.8 million committed to 4 players. Almost the entire projected salary cap. They must be willing to foot that bill or cut costs for a Smart extension to make sense, all without knowing what the supporting cast will look like that far in advance. Number 3, Zach LaVine, Chicago Bulls, extension eligible. Zach LaVine's extension eligibility is to some degree simple in that he's not going to sign one. A 20% raise off next year's salary will put him at $23.4 million in 2022 and 23. Entering free agency lets LaVine ink a max contract that projects to start at $33.7 million, a difference of more than $10 million, case closed, but not really. The Chicago Bulls can try to renegotiate and extend LaVine, a move that would drum up his 2021 and 22 salary while attaching more subsequent years, but that immediate uptick must be paid in cap space. If they plan on maxing him out, they'll need somewhere between $13 million and $14 million in spending power. Coming up with that scratch isn't a mindless endeavor. The Bulls must renounce all their own free agents to start, including Warren McCannon, and decline Ryan Arcidiacono's team option just to chisel out $12+ million. That number could take a nosedive if their top 4 protected pick doesn't convey to the Orlando Magic. They'll have to make at least one more cost-cutting move to squeeze in LaVine's max number. Traveling such links won't be a no-brainer. The Bulls are clearly committed to LaVine, otherwise they wouldn't have made the all-in move for Nikola Vucevic. But giving him an immediate raise hamstrings their capacity to improve a roster that failed to crack this year's play-in tournament. Paying him will actually cost them talent. If that's what it takes for LaVine to put pen to paper, the Bulls should absolutely do it. Letting him reach unrestricted free agency is a hairy proposition. Another failed playoff chase could drive him into the arms of a better team. That is LaVine's dilemma amid all this. His view of Chicago's future. Bagging an immediate $14 million or so pay bump is nice, but he doesn't have to worry about his market evaporating before 2022. He will get tax money, period. If he's going to take a new deal from the Bulls, he needs to be comfortable tethering the next half decade or so of his career to this organization's direction. Number 2, Lonzo Ball, New Orleans Pelicans, restricted. Lonzo Ball made himself a lot of money this year. He continues to have his limitations as a half-court creator, but he averaged 15.3 points and 6.0 assists while hitting 39.8% of his 8.6 three-point attempts per game after his name hit the early season rumor mill. Malik Beasley and Stephen Curry were the only players to match his long-range efficiency and volume over this stretch. Prospective suitors might be willing to come in with offers starting at $20+ million. Matching a deal in that neighborhood with their right could be difficult for the New Orleans Pelicans. They already shelled out max money for Brandon Ingram and Steven Adams a 2-year extension deal, and Eric Bledsoe has another fully guaranteed season at $18.1 million left on his deal. Coughing up $20 million for Lonzo would leave the Pelicans with $95.4 million committed to him: Adams, Bledsoe, Ingram, and Zion Williamson. It will only be for 1 year, but New Orleans isn't getting any cheaper. Zion and Jackson Hayes will be extension eligible next summer. Josh Hart, another player who should command 8 figures annually, is joining Lonzo in restricted free agency, paying a combined $38 million for both, roughly the sum of their cap holds. Puts the Pelicans right at the luxury tax line depending on where their first-round pick falls. On the flip side, showing Lonzo the door without netting value for his exit would be franchise malpractice. They had the opportunity to flip him for assets mid-season and opted against it. The implication is that they'll match whatever offer he receives, or that they're confident they can suss out sign-in trades. Number 1, Dennis Schroeder, Los Angeles Lakers, unrestricted. Dennis Schroeder's next contract has become a head-scratcher for all the involved parties. His decision to turn down a 4-year, $84 million extension suggests his market will be frothy, but he capped off the season by shooting a combined 9 of 36 over the Los Angeles Lakers' final 3 playoff games. Writing off such a teensy sample isn't hard. Schroeder only had 2 regular season appearances to ramp up after exiting the league's health and safety protocols, and the entire Lakers team was either banged up, misfiring, or both in their first-round series loss to the Phoenix Suns. Still, Schroeder didn't exactly meet expectations prior to the missing time. His efficiency noticeably fell off from last year's career best pace, and he didn't provide the Lakers with a steadying hand in the minutes in games they play without LeBron James. Their offensive rating placed in the 27th percentile when Schroeder went to work without the 4-time MVP. The Lakers shouldn't want to pay fringe star money to keep him in a vacuum. They also might not have a choice. Bouncing Schroeder from the book still leaves them over the cap, and they'll flirt with the luxury tax even if he leaves, depending on what happens with Alex Caruso, Montrezl Harrell, and Talen Horton-Tucker. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please leave a like rating down below and comment which contract decision is the toughest. See you guys next time. Have a great day.